Hey y'all, no time to waste. Let's hop right into it. Andrew Wilson challenges feminist who says war is easy. Let's see where this goes. Go.
I think if a woman is, meets certain requirements,
they don't meet the requirements because you have to carry the ammo and you have to carry the equipment and you have to carry
them. Strong enough to carry those things.
Then why is it that we can't ever seem to get a woman who can be a Navy SEAL? We never had one.
Well, that's some pretty extreme. Most men cannot become Navy SEALs.
I agree, but only men. But only men can. And when it comes to the idea of frontline combat, they have to lower. So women can be in the infantry. That's true, but they get lower standards. Women get lower standards in the military than men get.
Well, I think if you are, polling for whoever in defense of your country or homeland, you would take anyone who might.
But even if, I guess even if I grant that we could have some very small percentage of women who are capable of doing this, and maybe we even field them, because the vast majority, the overwhelming majority, don't even have the potential. They don't even have the potential to do this. It seems to me that it's not just that women can vote to send their men off to fight just by a simple majority. Just by a simple majority, they could do this by electing the politicians in office that have their...
Guys, I'm confused. This is what I'm saying. He jumps around to so many points. First, he mentioned Navy SEALs, right? He said Navy SEALs, most women can't be Navy SEALs, okay? I got that part, right? Then he said we can have women on infantry, right? They can be in the infantry spot. They can be infantry, but most of them can't be Navy SEAls. And she also said most men can't, which is true. Most men don't make it as Navy SEAls. So most men can't be Navy SEAls. No women have even, I don't even think women are allowed to apply to become a Navy SEAL, actually, to be honest. I think they're just now allowing women to become them. So most men can't be. We haven't tested women enough to see if they can get to that point where they could be. But as of right now, all men are just Navy SEAls, right? So Navy SEAls was his response. And then he says that women can be in infantry, but most of the time they're not. What's the argument? That women can't fight wars? So I'm going to keep listening until I get to the argument. I think that's the argument they're both trying to make here. So he went from Navy SEALs to infantry. That's a huge huge leap. Because infantry is definitely not as capable to carry out very, very dangerous missions compared to the Navy SEALs. Even though I respect both of them, still, infantry is not anywhere near the level of Navy SEALs. So let me see where he's going with this.
Pro-war stance, perhaps. And that's a fundamental unfairness in society. And it seems very obvious to me that that's very fundamentally unfair.
But women are in the military. And
in support roles.
The standards.
No, they pass standards which are lesser than men's standards. In fact, I can have Brian pull it up.
Okay, so his argument is it's unfair for men to have to go to war and women being able to vote on that. Okay. I'll write that down. Okay, so it's unfair for men to have to go to war and women to have to be able to vote on that. Let's keep going.
If you'd like to see it, but they have a different...
Sure, yeah, no, I'm fully aware of that, but they're still competent, and support roles are still important.
I agree.
And also, you don't have to be on the front lines to be killing people. My aunt flew helicopters in the Army, and she was, participating in killing people.
Well, there's another reason why you don't want them there. It's not just because of the capability of combat.
Is it resources?
No, it's because your enemy will capture them and they'll essay them and then they'll send them home pregnant in order to demoralize your population, which is what the Soviets did. So, and it's what they would do in Afghanistan, and unfortunately, many times it did happen where they captured American female soldiers, and that's exactly what they did. They essayed them. And
wartime is absolutely a thing, which is why...
Let's not say the R word, because it's YouTube.
Yeah,
you're good.
Bad, sorry.
You're good.
I forgot we have to TikTok politics.
So the problem is not just one-fold, right? It's threefold. Problem one, 98%, and that's being very charitable, of women would never even have the potential to be involved in a war that they could vote for. And
I strongly disagree with that.
Secondly, well, you can disagree, but the historic standard disagrees with you. And then secondly...
the historic standard doesn't count because women weren't allowed to join the military. Now, if they're able to, they should have that ability. 98% is crazy. She just mentioned what role her. It doesn't matter if they can be SA'd or sent home. What matters is they can go to war. If they decide that that's what they want to do, that's the consequence that comes with them deciding that they want to fight. So, I don't understand the argument.
The idea that women would be particularly useful in combat situations where enemy soldiers could have access to them, knowing that they would be prime loot. They're loot. That's what they would be. They would become booty, right?
You think men don't get SA'd in wartime?
Not like women. Not even close. It's not even in the same
I think
universe.
the idea of them being booty or loot is kind of ridiculous. But again,
why?
Even if I grant you all of this,
do you think they're like these? Do you think like the ugly mud catfish over in the Middle East, they get themselves some prime real estate of a nice, big-breasted blonde chick? You think that that's not like prime real estate to those guys?
Do you think there's no men out there in the middle?
No, because they might not be interested in white women. Just being honest. They might not be interested in white women.
That are into men and wouldn't be delivered.
You know what happens when you're in the Middle East and you're into men? Do you know what happens in the Middle East when you're into men? There's a special thing they do called fucking kill you. That's what happens.
Absolutely, yes, but that is why essaying prisoners would be ideal, because it can be an excuse to demoralize. There are very much...
And so what would you do? Like, let's pretend Charlie is the enemy commander.
Okay.
You're the enemy commander, and your orders are to win the war by any means necessary against your enemies. And you found out that your enemies were fielding female soldiers in frontline combat where your troops had access to them. Now, what would be more diabolical or easier than creating special units whose entire job was to just capture these enemy soldiers, these female enemy soldiers, SA them, record their screams and send it to the enemy, and then release them pregnant with their babies?
How did that work out for Japan?
Not good.
I mean, it worked out fine. They went through Nanking, and they absolutely did that. It was called...
They had a bomb dropped on them.
The raping of Nanking.
Yes,
that's what it was called.
I'm fully aware of what it was called, but I mean...
It worked out well for them. They completely demoralized the Chinese. They completely subjugated them under their boots.
And then we dropped 2 atom bombs on them, and now they are...
Did China do that?
No.
No.
And like he's really stretching that what happened, that RAP3 that happened. We can't say the R word, but RAP3 that happened. No, Japan was more technologically advanced than China too. It's another thing he's leaving out. They demoralized them by having the fighting power, the allies. They were allies with Germany. They were allies with Italy, so they had way more firepower. It wasn't just them sending that over. Like, that was a part of it, but it wasn't 100% what demoralized the army.
Oh,
but their allies, the U.S. did it.
And was the U.S. fielding women in frontline combats in Japan? No.
Nurses, but
no. But the Chinese, right? They were greeting anybody they could. And the thing is funny is the first thing the Japanese did as part of their demoralization campaign was essay all the women and make sure that. And one of the big pieces of propaganda that they had was all of your future children are now our future children.
Yeah, it's horrible and awful. But again, look at where China is now, and look at where Japan is now.
Right.
People joke about the Chinese century, but I think China is a very powerful world superpower, and Japan is an American vassal state, essentially. So I think at the end of the day,
I would argue that more people would want to live in Japan than they would in China.
It doesn't change the fact that China is much more powerful than Japan.
Yeah, but it's also got way more people than Japan and a much larger landmass and way more access to resources, and we allowed them to continue to have an offensive military post-war. In Japan, we took that away from.
Well, we didn't have the option to take that away from China. Because they were our ally.
Well, we did, right at the start, have the option to, but we didn't. But the point is that the Japanese have not been allowed to have a military. We don't allow them to have an offensive one.
Yeah, because of what happened last time.
Yeah, exactly. But the point is that, again, that's the second reason. That's the second. And then you have the third reason, which is that they can't meet the minimum requirements which would be necessary for us to even fill them if we wanted to in those situations, because they would get killed so quickly. I mean, they would just get killed so quickly.
I don't know if you have a good idea of what, no offense, but like I feel like maybe your idea of like what war looks like now is like dudes charging at each other with guns, and that's not really how it works.
What do you think war looks like right now, Charlie?
It's drone warfare at the moment. We don't really do boots on the ground anymore.
Is there a lot of drone warfare going on in Russia and Ukraine?
It's also guerrilla warfare.
Yeah, there's a lot of Russia.
I'm actually not super familiar with Russia and Ukraine.
And there's a decent number of that. Now, are there people fighting, like, definitely on the ground? Of course, but there is a decent number of drone warfare, absolutely. And, yeah, war has changed. Like, I think it'll be fine. I think women can fight on the front lines just like men can.
Right, but I know there's a lot of tanks, and they're blowing people up.
They've mostly been focusing on drone combat. I'm going to tell you something really interesting that happened.
Okay.
So the Russians brought back the Dragoon, the actual Dragoon, and instead of using a horse, they use a motorcycle instead to outpace drones, and they mount AK-47 machine guns to the front of their motorcycles, and they fly past the enemy and they mow them down.
A woman couldn't do that?
No, she couldn't.
A woman
for the most part,
ride a motorcycle and shoot?
No, I don't think she could. I think that I don't think you really understand the physical weight requirements that are necessary to both control a motorcycle, have a heavy machine gun mounted to it that you're also firing, and carry the requisite equipment to do this. I don't think
it would
you
be tied to the motorcycle.
That doesn't make it less unwieldy. Very hard to wield. It requires physical strength to do these things.
Yes, I've shot guns before. It's just I'm unclear how a gun being mounted on a motorcycle, you're not having to carry it. You are just riding the motorcycle.
You have to control the motorcycle with your muscles.
Yes, I know how motorcycles work.
And the heavier the front end of them is, the more you have to use the muscles to steer it.
These probably
This dude, he stretches every fucking detail possible. He's hilarious, man. Like, he just tries so hard to argue these pointless arguments. But I mean, they drive people to watch, so it's interesting. Like,
American.
And by the way, what do you think the 110-pound woman's going to do? Kick up the kickstand and keep it up, or do you think she's going to fall over with it?
They wouldn't be recruiting 110.
But it's not just that. They are in Russia and Ukraine charging at each other with machine guns. They are on the ground fighting, just like it's World War II looking combat more than anything else. It's infantry-based warfare all over the Ukraine. Why do you think so many people are dying? Why do you think they're dying so much? Because they're engaged in frontline infantry combat, day in and day out.
Is it not a lot of guerrilla stuff?
Yes, of course, guerrilla fighting is always part of warfare.
All right, I feel like that is what the majority of warfare is now. Bombs, drones, guerrilla stuff.
War will always come down after you get past the technological barriers. So if you have a first world nation attacking a third world nation, sure, right? They're left with guerrilla warfare. We use massive amounts of technology to level major cities, things like this, and then send in an occupying force. They fight the occupying force with guerrilla warfare. That's true. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to first world nations, that's different. They have technology. They're going to blow the hell out of each other, right? But then when they blow up each other's technology, it still comes down to infantry-based combat.
No,
why do you think they train people to be infantry?
It'll come down to nukes. We ain't got to fight a war no more.
Man. Because it still comes down to that. And there's lots of places you can't get technology. You can't always get technology in the deep, dark jungle or in the high deserts or in the snow-covered fields and plains.
Is low on, I think they're pulling very, very old.
It's not just that. Think about here in the United States. You're going to get a tank through Michigan in the wintertime? I don't think so. I don't think so. So the thing is like, yeah, it requires the requisite is a lot of strength, regardless of technology. And even utilizing technology requires a lot of physical strength. Tanks require loading from shells, carrying tons of shells, carrying tons of equipment and ammunition. And not only that, you have to be more resistant to the elements. And men are. Men are more resistant to elements than women are. And so they have kind of everything going for them. They're the super soldier. And they were designed basically to be super soldiers, right? That's. I
mean, I think you might have an exaggerated idea of what the average starving Russian farm boy might look like. A lot of the boys recruited into, or drafted into warfare over across.
How do you think you would do in a physical fist fight with the average Russian starving farm boy?
Depends on how tall he is. I have beaten. Well, it's been a long time since I've.
Honestly, out of just any random Russian farm boy who's starving that you can think of, who you came across. Right? How well do you think you would do if you tangled up with him in a physical conflict?
If she has some training, she might win.
My husband used to ejaculate
Wow. If she has physical training, she might win.
Physical fist fighting? Not well.
Not well.
But if I had a gun, I think we'd be about equal.
Yeah, but
or
if
a
he,
knife, or a spear, or swords.
but if he had a
I think
gun,
we'd be fine.
I don't think he would be equal.
I think he would.
I think that starving peasant, who's male, is still going to be 10 times more dangerous than you with a gun.
With a gun?
Yes, he's fat. He's going to be faster.
Again,
he's going to be stronger. He's going to have better predatory instincts.
They are equal when it comes to using guns. There is
facts. Actually, I heard that some of the best shooters, snipers, can be women. Women are actually better at it. They're better at calming their mind down and being able to aim down the scope, like being able to put the scope in a spot where it's like, breathe and pow. Like, I've read that before. I have read that. And actually, like, every girl I've ever taken out to do shooting, they do really good on the first go around. Like, they do really good. They do better than most of the men that come out shooting with me. Like, literally. Like, genuinely. Like, every girl I take out shooting, whether it's the AR-15, not my AR-15, but whether it's AR-15, a shotgun. Shotguns, they have a little harder time controlling because they're a little heavier. That kickback sometimes they got to get used to. But once they get used to the kickback, they're good, man. I think women will do fine. I think women are good at that. I think, from what I'm understanding, like, archery is another place where I see, like, a lot of women who bow and arrows are really good with that. They got extremely good aim.
You're thinking about this the wrong way.
Uh-huh.
If I set you up right here, okay, and if we lay you down on a table and you have a rifle and the rifle's been sighted in, and all you have to do is aim it at the target and pull the trigger, you can do that equal to a man.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
Okay, so he agrees with that.
But if you have to carry that fucking thing for 60 miles and all the ammunition that comes with it, and all of the equipment that you need to sustain yourself to survive in any sort of environment with you, you're going to have a huge problem. And the reason you're going to have a huge problem is because you don't have to just carry your equipment. You got to carry the guy's equipment next to you as well for the things that they're doing. And men are on average 50 to 75% stronger than women. That's why they're capable of doing that. Women aren't.
Well, the me of right now is perhaps, yes, not equipped to do that, but there are certainly women who, carry very heavy loads when they camp or hike.
I agree.
And travel far distances.
Sure.
There's also,
there are some women
that a woman who hunts regularly would be much, better equipped in that sort of scenario than, like, I don't know, a teenage boy who's never picked up a gun in his life.
No, because it's a strength differential means so much.
Not with a gun.
With a gun, it means a lot. You have to. Okay. I wish we had one here so I could demonstrate this for you, but I think I can at least express it for you. Okay. Do you agree with me that ammunition weighs a lot?
Yeah.
Okay.
It weighs a lot.
It weighs a lot. Okay. How would you feel about carrying 400 rounds of it on your chest?
I would hate it.
Yeah, along with full magazines and the rifle itself, and your cleaning.
Keep in mind, this is coming from the guy who couldn't open the jar the same way the girl couldn't. It took somebody else to walk in the room to do it. Anyways, bye.